Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Thank you so much for being a viewer and a subscriber. Thank you for the phenomenal feedback to yesterday's episode where I explored whether the unvaccinated can lose their job or be fired or actually lose unemployment benefits. This is a very intense subject. It's a very personal subject. And I want our viewers and subscribers to know that there's a difference between federal mandates. There is no federal mandate to get the vaccine. The government is not requiring and cannot require you to get the vaccine, but private employers can do that. Let's talk about freedom of speech really quick because this is a related matter. The government cannot prevent you from saying or doing certain things because that would be a violation of freedom of speech. But private entities like Twitter, like Facebook, like Google, we're on YouTube right now. If YouTube doesn't like something, they can just take it out. That is not a violation of freedom of speech. That is the private entity instituting what they think is right. Now, they may not always be right. Let's be clear about that. But that's a private entity instituting their rules and regulations as to what's allowed in their environment, or if you're an employee of theirs, their work environment, which includes requiring vaccines, and that's what I covered in yesterday's episode. Let's take a look at some important matters impacting the country. Let's start by taking a look at the Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw. He's a Republican from Texas. He was actually heckled, folks. He was heckled at a fundraising event where he talked about the election lie, and he said, "Don't kid yourself into believing that why we lost 5 different states, hundreds of thousands of votes. You're kidding yourself." Let's actually hear a response from somebody who was heckling him, who believes in the election lie. This really is the state of our country right now. And let's take a look at a Republican congressman from Texas being heckled at a fundraising event. This is where we are right now as a country.
Serious problems, but don't kid yourself into believing that's why we lost. It's not. It's not.
You're wrong.
I'll tell you openly.
You're wrong.
I'll tell you, and I'm not wrong.
Yes, you are.
Five
I have
states?
Plenty of proof. I have proof in Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Georgia.
You did the Maricopa.
Yeah.
How did that turn out?
And guess what? It's going to turn out, and it's going to flip.
Okay,
you watch. You're going to see
it
firsthand.
It won't. And you've got to flip all 5 states to make it.
You know how they're stealing the elections?
All right, I'm not going to argue with this. I'm not going to argue with this. It's just something. Look, I'll say it openly. This is something you got to accept. Is there a lot of voter
He
fraud?
is
Yeah,
right.
there probably is. Enough that Trump won? No, absolutely not.
You'll see.
Absolutely not. 5 different states,
Yes.
hundreds of thousands of votes.
Yes.
You're kidding yourself.
I can't tell.
That's where we are right now, folks. That is a state. That is a state of the country right now. Now, in other interesting news, everyone, and I want our viewers and subscribers to be aware about this, Rand Paul revealed that his wife bought shares in the company Gilead, which actually makes an antiviral drug used to treat COVID, on the 26th of February 2020, before the threat from the pandemic was revealed, was fully understood by the public, before we had a national health emergency, before the CARES Act. He disclosed this 16 months after it was required by him to disclose it. So he disclosed this 16 months later than he should have. This is, folks, this is pretty unbelievable. I think we should be calling Congressman Rand Paul and letting him know where we stand with this. Now, speaking of where we stand with situations, Ted Cruz, talks about not having mandates, essentially having no mandates at all as far as the federal government is concerned. But his children, okay, I want to be clear, his children go to a private school that's $30,000 a year that requires masks and does contact tracing. In other words, the school is hyper focused on preventing the spread of the pandemic. Now, does he consider this an oppressive establishment, and does he want to pull his kids out of this establishment? Folks, it's pretty interesting that a lot of these politicians say one thing, but they end up doing something completely different. In fact, let's actually play a clip featuring Ted Cruz where he accuses Democrats of having a herd mentality where they obey one person. And then let's take a look at a clip from him where he talks about no mandates. There should be 0 mandates as far as the pandemic is concerned. Let's start by taking a look at the herd mentality comment from Ted Cruz, which is a pretty rich coming from Ted Cruz. Let's actually take a look. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me put this up on the screen and make sure it's aligned properly so our viewers and subscribers can see this. Okay, let's play the video. I want to know what you think. Let's watch.
It's a weird thing, Sean,
There is a herd mentality among congressional Democrats that they obey Chuck Schumer, and their only answer is, sir, yes, sir. And so we fight. And it's a weird thing, Sean. There is a herd mentality among congressional Democrats that they obey Chuck Schumer, and their only answer is, sir, yes, sir. And so we fight. And it's a weird thing, Sean. There is a herd.
So that is a pretty interesting comment from Ted Cruz. Now let's take a look at Cruz's comment that there should be literally no mandates as far as the pandemic are concerned. Let's roll the tape and hear what he had to say.
My view is very simple. There should be no mandates, zero concerning COVID. That means no mask mandates, regardless of your vaccination status. That means no vaccine mandates. That means no vaccine passports. And I've introduced legislation, a bill to ban vaccine passports. This week I'm introducing a bill to ban vaccine mandates. And this week I'm introducing a bill to end mask mandates. Now, my view is very simple. There should be no mandate.
So folks, that is where he stands right now. And obviously, like I said, his kids actually go to a school, a $30,000 a year private school that requires masks, that mandates masks. Now, speaking of mask mandates, some very interesting development. President Biden, the White House, sent 300 ventilators to the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, because Florida is not in a good situation right now. Let's hear Ron DeSantis' response about these 300 ventilators. And he was asked, why has Florida requested 300 ventilators? And he said, I quote, "I have not heard about that. I would honestly doubt that that's true, but I'll look." I mean, as the governor of the state, I would imagine you would know that. But guess what? This is what we get from Ron DeSantis. Let's listen.
Well, so I would push back on that too. We're in contact. Our ACA secretary, in fact, she's met with all the hospitals here. Why are you asking for 300 respirators? I'm not. I didn't ask. I don't know. I did not know about that. So I've not heard about that. So I have to check to see whether that's true or not. We have. I mean, I would honestly doubt that that's true, but I'll look. They're at their wits' end. They don't have the resources.
So folks, let me know what you think about that. Some pretty interesting comments from Ron DeSantis. Speaking of interesting, this is a comment from the Terminator. I'm about to show you a comment from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he talks about people who refuse to follow COVID guidelines, refuse to get vaccinated. He simply says, "Screw your freedom." Yep, folks, this is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Let's watch. Let me know what you think. This is interesting.
And not just to think about, well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom. Because with freedom comes obligations and kind of responsibilities. We cannot just say, I have the right to do X, Y, and Z. When you affect other people, and not just to think about, well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom. Because with freedom comes obligations and kind of responsibilities. We cannot just say, I have the right to do X, Y, and Z. When you affect other people, and not just to think.
So folks, let me know what you think about this interesting comment from Arnold Schwarzenegger. He just clearly he just let it rip. Speaking of letting it rip, Peter Doocy, who is a troublemaker from Fox News, I don't think he has much going on, so he's always trying to ask questions where he can try and say, gotcha, with Jen Psaki, but I think Jen Psaki is one step ahead. I'm talking about the White House press secretary. He asked her, this is the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, was asked a question by Peter Doocy, the Fox News correspondent. I call him the Fox News troublemaker. She was asked whether President Biden is creating vaccine hesitancy by not trusting former President Trump. To which Jen Psaki replied, the former president was also suggesting people inject versions of poison into their veins to cure the pandemic. Yep, this was a response, folks. Hard to believe, but this actually happened. Let's roll the tape and listen to this.
Donald Trump is out there saying we're going to have a vaccine in the next couple weeks, next couple months. And Joe Biden is out on the campaign trail saying, don't trust Donald Trump. Did that create any kind of vaccine hesitancy?
Not that we've seen in the data. I would note that at the time, just for context, the former president was also suggesting people inject versions of poison into their veins to cure COVID. So
Donald Trump is out there saying we're going to have a vaccine in the next couple weeks, next couple months. And Joe Biden is out on the campaign trail saying, don't trust Donald Trump. Did that create any kind of vaccine hesitancy?
Not that we've seen in the data. I would note that at the time, just for context, the former president was also suggesting people inject versions of poison into their veins to cure COVID. So
Donald Trump is out there saying...
So folks, I'm repeating some of these clips because honestly, some of this information is so hard to believe. And speaking of information that's so hard to believe, you've probably heard by now that the $1 trillion infrastructure package has indeed been passed. However, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi pretty much said that the House will not take up the bipartisan $1 trillion infrastructure package until the Senate passes the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. She said, I quote, I'm not taking up that bill, they are compatible. For her, it's an all or nothing phenomenon. This is significant as far as the overall stimulus is concerned. House Speaker Pelosi saying it's going to be 1 trillion plus 3.5 trillion or nothing. So she's going to make sure that both pass, and that was essentially her comment. In fact, let's check this out and see what she said.
I'm not taking up that. I mean, people want me to take it up. I mean, oh yeah, no, I think. I'm not taking up that. I mean, people want me to take it up. I mean, oh yeah, no, I think we were able to get support for the bigger package, the 3.5 trillion, because there was the other bipartisan package, and I think we were able to get the bipartisan package because we had the 3.5 trillion. So they are, shall we say, compatible, in my view. I'm not taking up that. I mean, people want me to take it up.
So that is pretty significant. I want to know from our viewers and subscribers what you think in the comment section below. And it looks like both are going to have to pass or none, which is where we are right now. Now I do want to share a couple more important clips, and this one actually features the governor of Florida once again, Ron DeSantis. And folks, this again is very significant. He said, and I quote, by the way, some schools are trying to defy Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He has a ban on mask mandates. And he said, I quote, the State Board of Education could move to withhold the salary of the district superintendent or school board members who are in violation. Wow, let's actually listen to what he's saying here, because this is significant. This is taking salaries away from school teachers who defy the governor. Let's watch.
Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis is threatening to withhold the pay of officials who enact school mask mandates. DeSantis invoked an executive order that prohibits mask mandates in school districts, but a few schools have said masks will still be required. A statement from DeSantis' office says the State Board of Education could move to withhold the salary of the district superintendent or school board members. Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis is threatening to withhold the
That is significant, folks. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And also, I want to share an important clip featuring Dr. Anthony Fauci. And Dr. Anthony Fauci sort of talked about this, and he was asked, do you think teachers should be mandated to be vaccinated? And he said, I'm quoting, he said, I'm going to upset people on this, but I think we should. Dr. Fauci is suggesting that teachers should be mandated to be vaccinated by the federal government. Okay, this is significant. And Dr. Fauci is saying, I'm going to upset people on this, but I think we should. We are in a major surge now as we're going into the fall, into the school season. This is very serious business. Let's roll the tape and hear from Dr. Anthony Fauci. Let me know what you think, folks, because this is a very significant matter pertaining to the country, the economy, as well as our money. Let's see what Dr. Fauci is saying. Let's watch.
Dr. Fauci, do you agree with Randy Weingarten, the head of the largest teachers union in the country, who came out yesterday and said, yes, teachers should be vaccinated inside schools? Do you think they should be mandated to be vaccinated?
Yeah, I'm going to upset some people on this, but I think we should. I mean, we are in a critical situation now. We've had 615,000 plus deaths, and we are in a major surge now as we're going into the fall, into the school season. This is very serious business. You would wish that people would see why it's so important to get vaccinated. But you're not going to get mandates centrally from the federal government. But when you're talking about local mandates, mandates for schools, for teachers, for universities, for colleges, I'm sorry. I mean, I know people must like to have their individual freedom and not be told to do something. But I think we're in such a serious situation now that under certain circumstances, mandates should be done.
So, folks, let me know what you think about that. That was a pretty significant comment from Dr. Fauci. Thank you so much for watching this channel. The Ignition Time channel is about the country, the economy, as well as our money. Please support the channel by clicking the like button, by clicking subscribe, by enabling notification. I have a lot of respect for our viewers. I work hard on this channel every single day to bring you the latest news. So again, please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I work very hard. I'm going to see you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Don't forget to share this video with friends and family. Let me know what you think about all the clips here, including important comments from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and, of course, the one and only Ron DeSantis and Dr. Fauci, and some of the bombshells, if you will, about Rand Paul and Ted Cruz. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.